Bankroll Freddy's fame was cut short because he couldn't shake his ties to the streets. The up-and-coming rapper now faces firearm charges, swapping the stage for a prison cell. This is the story of Bankroll Freddie, born in Helena, Arkansas, otherwise known as Helltown. Freddie Gladney Jr. had a wild life from the outset. In interviews after he got famous, the rapper claimed that he lost his virginity at 7 and admitted to stabbing his own brothers and sisters in his youth. According to Freddie, he was active in the streets from the age of 12, robbing and stealing whatever he could to fill his pockets. Over time, his involvement in petty crime would progress to things that were far more severe. At the same time as he was making a name for himself in the streets, Freddie had ambitions as an MC, and in 2019, he signed to the Atlanta-based label Quality Control, alongside artists like Lil Baby, City Girls, Lil Yachty, and Migos. While on a trip to ATL, he was actually a victim of a crime when he was robbed in a hotel room by a corrupt former cop named Justin Thorne, who lost his job for offering to remove a felony warrant in exchange for payment. After Internal Affairs uncovered what he'd done, he was struck off and turned to a life of crime, with Freddie being his target.
Freddie Bankroll escaped without injury, but his cousin was pistol-whipped multiple times. He looked like he was on official police business, but tonight disgraced ex-Atlanta police officer Justin Thorne is preparing to serve a 10-year prison sentence after he pled guilty earlier this month for his role in the 2019 armed robbery of Freddie Gladney III, who's better known by his stage name Bankroll Freddie.
Despite what happened in the ATL, Freddie refused to be disrespected in Arkansas and would regularly mock his ops across social media. Eventually, the ongoing war of words would come to a head when a rival gang shot up one of his shows in his hometown of Helena. In the chaos that ensued, one person was killed and 3 others were injured. As for Freddie, a bullet grazed his head and arm, but he and his crew ultimately escaped unscathed. When something like this happens, most people would keep a low profile to avoid any further trouble coming their way. But not Freddie. A veteran of what he claimed was over 30 shootouts, Freddie still didn't take the precautions that he could have. And in May of 2021, he was shot in the face, with the bullet catching him under the chin. Amazingly, he taunted his ops while still wearing an oxygen mask in the hospital.
Yeah. Bitch ass nigga didn't kill.
Unfortunately for him, the ops were only one thing that he'd have to dodge, as the police were hot on his trail. On April 14th, 2022, Freddie was arrested during a traffic stop for speeding. However, what he didn't realize at the time was that going over the limit was about to cost him a lot more than the price of a ticket. Once they had him, a search of his vehicle uncovered 21 pounds of marijuana, 171 grams of promethazine, commonly used to make lean, $34,000, and several guns. He was hit with drugs and firearms charges as he was booked into a county detention center, while getting hit with the same charges by the feds. He was initially released into the custody of his bodyguard and hit with an 11 p.m. curfew. The federal charges weren't going to be shaken so easily. As part of his bond, Bankroll was told that he couldn't use guns in his music videos, nor could he consume excessive amounts of alcohol or fraternize with any felons. Essentially, he had to forfeit his life as he knew it. Still, he initially claimed that the experience made him a better person and made him want to turn over a new leaf. But for Freddie, it was just too late because the authorities already had everything they needed. Later that same year, the U.S. attorney made their move and apprehended a whole host of individuals on federal firearms and drug trafficking charges. Chief among them was Bankroll, who was one of the 43 who was brought into custody, and one of the 80 in total who were indicted. Much like what happened to Young Thug, Gunna, and the YSL crew, this was a federal RICO indictment that targeted 2 rival gangs, EBK, who both Freddie and his dad were affiliated with, and their enemies, the Lodi murder mob. Both Freddie and his father were conspiring to traffic weapons and narcotics, specifically over 100 kilos of marijuana and a whole list of tactical weapons across state lines. And if you know anything about the law, that's when things get really sticky. To make matters worse, he made a serious miscalculation by allegedly discussing the distribution plans on a wiretapped phone. If they were going that far, it seems as though the feds were hell-bent on capturing Freddie, his father, and a whole host of others. One reason for their pursuit of the case likely comes down to the fact that an undercover cop by the name of Kevin Collins was killed while gathering evidence on Bankroll and the EBKs. Indicted on a minimum of 11 charges, it looks like it might be a long time until Bankroll Freddy sees the outside world again, if ever.